Welcome to Wired for Wonder, where we speak to the architects of the future of work, leaders who are using AI to dismantle the old grind and build a workplace where the human element isn't a feature, it's the foundation. My name is Lori Kirkland, and I'm excited to have Sherri Manning in the studio today to share her perspective on how we're stripping down the illusion of job architecture to reveal human outcomes that actually survive the changes in the workplace. Welcome to the show, Sherri.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to get to be here and talk about such a fun, exciting, creative topic.
Great, great. And you guys, Sherri has been the chief people officer at many global organizations in hospitality and financial services. She's a lawyer by study and a leading strategic advisor. And in addition to her vast work experience, Sherri is a natural explorer. So she's participating in education or expeditions with groups like the Explorers Club and Sea Women Expeditions. We're so excited for you to help the rest of us with our exploration as we are all, right, encountering brand new terrain in the world of AI. So, Sherri, right now we have a workforce that is clutching to their job descriptions like safety bars on a roller coaster that's ready to come off the tracks. So, tell me a little bit about how are you observing that in the workplace today? Like, what are you seeing from the people you're interacting with?
Yeah, it is a great question. And thank you for that wonderful intro. It is, I think, part of the reason that I started noticing some of these patterns because I do art. To your point, I'm going on an expedition to Antarctica this quarter with a group of 25 women and doing leadership development for them. All of that came into developing my own view of how I have noticed this tension between um, what we are as humans as a whole portfolio and how people compress themselves into job descriptions in companies that I've worked in and compress and squeeze themselves into certain levels or career ladders. And I see people do that so often. So, for instance, as you asked, like one example would be um, we have career development ladders and we've told them this is the ladder for you. And some people have all of this interesting other experience. And we're like, but this is the career development ladder for you. Or we currently have internal mobility and it's like you go from this job to this job. And people are telling us, I have all this other things I could offer or bring. And they just haven't had an structure in a human operations system that's modern and current to allow more than what's written in that job description.
And that so resonates with me, and it resonates with like what we're seeing in the workplace as well, right? Like you're seeing people who are like, okay, yeah, you're giving me this path, but like, how do I get to contribute? How do I get to like actually use parts of me? Um, and then at the same time, you're seeing like organizations and leaders try to shove more into a job description
Yes.
instead of like being like, wait a minute, this is the outcome that I really need. So it's like leaving people I love that word you just used, as their whole portfolio feels like you're taking bits and pieces of them, and so the organization is getting those pieces, but they're actually probably the organization's probably dealing with much more of the resistance because they're not actually getting that whole person, which is causing things like disengagement, burnout. It's just really not where people are feeling like they're showing up as their whole selves and actually giving their full best selves to people, to their
I
organization.
I had an opportunity recently working with one of my advisory companies, and they are in the technology and human capital space. It's human capital technology. And they were having a challenge with their high potentials who weren't terribly satisfied with their jobs and we were starting to see a spike in attrition for that group. And I agreed to partner with them to look at the job descriptions, go through and identify what portions of the job were repetitive, redundant, something that AI could really help with. And if it was something AI could help with, we gave it to the AI team and they went off and helped us design AI solutions to address that, which meant I had people in high potential job descriptions. I pulled off some of the redundant, repetitive work. And then I worked with the managers and leaders to individualize what that meant for the 20% of the job. So 80% of the job stayed the same. But what we did for 20% of the job is we used AI as an opportunity to redesign the work around the individual humans so that we could
Yes.
say, like, how do we release? Let's talk about Lori. So we just cleared roughly 20% of the plate. She's a high potential. Where is her passion zone and what could that mean? And we designed the jobs so that some people moved into innovation, some moved into strategy projects, some helped more with coaching. And by doing that, we radically changed the satisfaction of our high potential employees. We increased the likelihood of retaining them longer. And we used AI as a tool, not just for efficiency and uh, repetition elimination, which I'm a big fan of, but we started use it to totally redefine what the nature of work is to the term that we're using to recognize the portfolio of who I am, not just focus on some standardized, redundant, designed for the mean job description that we used to have um, in our old human operation systems.
It's so funny because as you were talking, you're like making me think of like a map from like, maybe the 1900s, right? Like that, like what we're seeing is the map of what the skills and the things that were really, key in being successful, like things like productivity, efficiency, revenue. Like those are just the baseline now. Like if you can't provide those or understand that those are important, then you are going to have trouble. But really, where leadership is being called to go is to say, hey, in a changing time where we don't have a clear map like we used to, right? We're building to an unknown destination. Why don't we anchor on who the humans are and like actually use their skills, because humans are like by far, evolving and growing is what we're great at. So why would we not use the skills that each person has, by to move towards a greater outcome, which is beyond, and that's one other thing I think that we can talk about is that your KPIs have to be beyond revenue, productivity, and efficiency, right? We now have, like, AI is not the solution, AI is the tools, or really, I like to say it's the excuse to get rid of all that stuff that is burdensome to individuals, to start giving room for growth of individuals, um, to really start exploring again, because we haven't had room for exploration of human growth in the workplace, at least in my lifetime, right? Like, it's been a long time.
Yeah, we couldn't like our old assumptions. We have an opportunity to relook and totally change and update them for what's happening in the modern world and in the modern workplace. Our old assumptions used to say, "Look, to be fair, um, career path. This is the career path. It had to be the same for everyone." Or your job description, by all means, had to be the same for everyone because fairness meant the same because we couldn't it just no one would have the work bandwidth to individualize that in a way that fit your skill portfolio and experience as an individual human, and AI is making that possible. Fairness in the future really should be about equitable access to personalization. That should be an
Ugh.
expectation we set with a new generation of employees. And I think they are hungry for that. And I think as leaders, it is our obligation to start that shift as we work with individual employees and help them talk about and bring their whole portfolio. I had no choice when I was having a career in corporate. I had very separate identities. I had the artist, explorer, expedition. I go to places in the world that most people don't have the privilege of ever getting to. And I rarely even talked about it. Sometimes people would say, "Wait, you're doing what? You went where? You went to
Oh,
Borneo?"
Antarctica, that's so cool. How could
Yeah.
you not talk about it?
Right, right, right. And then I had this corporate side that I also love, helping organizations and helping them help people grow and place people in challenging roles and helping organizations perform. But now we are in a place where I can bring my whole self to work. And as leaders, we need to help all of our employees bring their whole selves to work because creativity, judgment, and passion, that's what AI is freeing up. And if I bring my best energy to a job, it's great for me and great for the company that I work for.
And it's great for the people around you. You inspire opportunity, passion, inspiration. And it's really funny because I almost feel like sometimes we're working with like, have you ever heard, from the medical side, like phantom limbs, right? Like we're
Yes.
like, there's this struggle with leadership right now to say, well, but we've always done it like that and go pull the productivity arm or that, that used to be there. That's no longer there. It actually isn't really relevant anymore because we all know productivity. We've all scaled up and gotten our workflows and our standardization, like we've done really good as a society with that. But now we have to integrate that, but also understand that that is no longer the focus, right? Like the arm that might have been there is no longer there. But really what we need to look at now is how do we reconnect back to the other parts of us that haven't been practiced? And I really loved your description of right, bringing your whole self into it because it's like each of us are actually pretty darn magical and have some just great natural gifts that in that standardized world, which was really relevant for us for 100 plus years, is no longer right that like it's there, but we actually now need different skills. And the way we're going to find what is most valuable in a very changing dynamic is if we let the people like you who are or me who are like good at exploration, and we'll go out there and have the courage to look at what is like, yes, there's a lot of unknown, but here's a safe way to go about it. And I agree with you that humanity, focusing on the gifts of the humans seems to be a really safe bet right now, and one that will also not only, uh, be good for the business, but it'll actually be good for humanity as well because we can just start feeling better and lose some of this heavy overcapacity mindset that we somehow as a society have gotten ourselves into.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that aligns with what companies at the core, what they want. We just haven't been at the point that we had systems and processes and tools that were ready to support that. Like companies would tell you, I want experimentation and innovation. And then we went, hey, Lori, like stay in your lane, or Lori, that's not really your job. That's right. And now if we are able to use AI to mature job descriptions and job architecture and career ladders and what it means for you to learn what you're interested in, AI gives us the opportunity to have mass personalization and customization. And that will cause people to be able to innovate and experiment more on behalf of themselves as individuals, but on behalf of the company. And companies have said, like, we need more of that. Like, why aren't people doing that? And we've worked hard to put in, reward systems and programs to help with that. But the whole time we've had human ops systems that weren't really technologically able to support it. And AI is going to make that happen so that we can really individualize at scale. So I hope you can sense I'm super excited about it.
I love that. And you're bringing up there's something that can be really scary in a time of, oh my God, we can do anything. We all just get overwhelmed, right? But at the same time, it's like, like leaders forget that they're actually very in tune with their cultures and organizations.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I actually had, I did this big research project last year, and I had someone who used the term AI is like an MRI for dysfunction for your organization, right? And when you
Wow.
talk about systems that were there, like AI highlights really quickly the areas that maybe we didn't have money to, you didn't, as a leader, you didn't have money to, or you couldn't get the support of, or it affect too many people. So you didn't have, you know, the budget to really tackle that. But all of a sudden now you're freeing up more time and you can look at that problem with a whole new, set of data that was not available to you a year or 2 years ago, right? Like all of a sudden it's like you can actually go back to look at those some of those core dysfunctions that are there that we've, literally built processes and workflows around. So when you talk about the human operating systems, one of the things is that we all create limiting beliefs based on some of the things we just talked about. What do you think is one of the assumptions that leaders who are struggling to really embrace the change are kind of holding on to right now, like some of the limiting beliefs?
I love that question so much. Like, one would be that career paths Our career paths are yesterday. Career exploration and giving people guides, I think, is a way to go. A second one is like roles are not identities. That would be, like, my favorite
Ooh,
one that hits my heart, like, your job title is not your identity, and people will say that outside of work all the time. They're like, "Oh, we know," and is it awkward when you retire or you're between jobs because 'cause you're like, "What do I say I do?" You are not a
who
job
am
title.
I?
Yeah, right. You are not a job title. You are this amazing portfolio of passion and creativity and innovation and skills and things that maybe people at your church or in your community don't know that you do or think people at your office don't know that you do. And we need to start thinking holistically. I think that's really where I'm excited. This is a liberation movement, like, this is
Yes.
liberation. If I'm talking to my HR professional peers, this is an AI liberation moment, and I'm just like, we have the potential to really shift. We have fit people into job architecture or job descriptions or a path. And this is our chance for the first time with AI based on the volume and the time and the deep analytics to really be able to make what those things are fit how humans really think and innovate and grow rather than the other way around.
You just sparked so many tingles when you like in me when you were talking about that because it's like it is this freedom that's in front of us, right? But as humans, right, the way our brains work is we want to do the repeated patterns not because we like them, but because they're easier for us. They feel like they're going to bring
Yes.
us even if there's pain, it's easier than changing or doing something new. But all of a sudden, here's this tool we have, AI, that's like wait a minute, you're going to have to recreate anyways. So as we're architecting and designing the future, like there's this thing of like we don't have to hold on to, so many people held on to job architecture so tightly, in my opinion, because it wasn't working and that friction that was there. They were like, yeah, but you're not doing this. And the people are like, yes, I am from this point of view. And it's like we have all of a sudden this opportunity and this lens to say, wait a minute, right? When we see organizational friction, we don't have to look at it like a personality defect, right?
Yes.
And we get this opportunity using AI to say, well, what operating patterns might I be running that are actually creating creating my side of the friction, right? All of a sudden we can see it and we can use AI to say, hey, let me describe a scenario that I'm having generic of my company, but here's the friction point that I'm seeing. How can what human operating system pattern am I running? And how might that be affecting other people? It's like we have this like resource to look at being how can we, one, own our part of the friction, but then two, how can we actually design an architect to let that friction fall? Because man, I don't know anybody who isn't tired in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
Like even people who are building the towards the future, where there's still a lot of heavy load that we have to, some stuff we have to break up with and just release, but there's a whole bunch of stuff we have to integrate into the future to start looking at, well, like right in those areas that we want to integrate that are important, show up with the feeling of dysfunction. So it's like there's this cool opportunity here, um, for us to look at. And I'm curious from you, from your almost your exploration side, how does your experience with exploration and colonization and courageousness, like how do we use that to actually treat more of the human animal here in the workplace?
I love that topic so much. I've got a book coming out in 2026 called Wilderness and Work, and it's about as I've journeyed through Borneo or Antarctica or the Galapagos and some of those locations, every time nature brings me something or the expedition group and event brings me something to reflect on as it relates to uh, leadership and including in our corporate world because we are not this bifurcated system. We are whole humans who learn from a variety of experiences, and one easy example of that would be like learning in my zone of discomfort. The other day in prep for Antarctica, I had to put on a dry suit, and if you've never done that, I'm not a diver, I'm a snorkeler. If you've never done that, wow, the equipment and it's really fitted, and you've got on 3 layers of gloves and a hat, that a hood that is like trying to press your head into like a beverage can opening. And just like doing things that were different forced me to grow and learn. We learn when we are not comfortable. And this is, just one lesson that I've learned as I've thought about like how we have confined people with the best of intent for simplicity purposes, um, because we just didn't have the opportunity without AI to, really open that up to individual humans. And I think you nailed it when you were saying these systems were designed around standardization. Like one of the things behind the scenes we do with job architecture is I look at a certain level of complexity across the company and go, okay, maybe this is the level at which we start offering bonus plans or a certain kind of bonus plan because, uh, you know, it's okay to make people at certain levels of contribution have some compensation that's at risk, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think
At risk, or a new game they
yeah,
can play.
yeah, it's the same thing, right? Flip side of the
Mhm.
same coin. And I think that, that's one of the reasons we were, like, so rigidly holding on to that. And I think with AI, even though the job family may hold, like if you're in marketing, it's in marketing, but the shape of what the job looks like is going to look like Lori or Sherry. And it was just too scary and unwieldy from an HR perspective to go, well, how do I compare those things? And now with AI, we're going to be able to go, oh, like I don't have to be afraid of that or scared or overwhelmed. There are ways that we can look at those things now with more systemic views that I could never do as an individual and get to a different place that allows really passion and creativity and personalization.
That is like you just I feel like I'm really aligned with you, so I love to hear all of this. And now I wanna ask you for my final question, like, right, going into this future of the unknown, right? You are an explorer, so you are already out ahead, but right, there's a whole group of people who are rapidly coming, right? And there's a lot of people who are like, yes, we want to build something better. If you could give advice to leadership teams about their responsibility, boards, about their responsibility of as all of this is happening, what they could do to ease the pain for the individual changes, what advice would you give?
Oh, go. Such a good question. I have so many thoughts. One is a principle I use with my teams all the time, which is start small and give me a foundation to build on. Don't feel like you have to like fix the universe or boil the ocean, as people say. One of the places I like to start working on this is with my high potential employees, high performers, high potential. Like, start with a defined population and learn and get experience underneath you on what does it mean to personalize these pieces and how do I document that? And then to your point, what does that mean in terms of KPIs? So that's one practical piece of advice. The other thing I would suggest is like, this is our responsibility as leaders. This is our value proposition. And it is, and to tell boards, this is what you've been telling us you've wanted. You want innovation, you want experimentation. To do that, people need to have the room, the emotional support and permission to experiment, to create, to learn, to explore, right? And that
Yeah.
takes courage and support from leaders. And I would encourage all of our leaders to begin that journey by understanding and talking with your employees about where's your passion? No, no, don't talk to me about the job description. Like, I got that. But tell me, like, beyond that or within it, like, what lights you up? What makes you feel creative? What would you like more of? And
Mm.
those are really, I think, the starting points for moving forward.
Oh, Sherry, well, such good advice and such a good conversation. Like I love your optimism. I love your analogies and it is all real concrete advice of stuff that is happening in the workplace today. So, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. If our audience wants to connect with you, where should we send them?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I share observations about my whole life portfolio about exploration and what that means for leadership and what I'm learning about AI because we're all on this journey together. What I'm learning and where I'm going and challenges and opportunities. So look for me on LinkedIn and for my book in 2026 about wilderness and work.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show and thank you everyone for listening.
Lori, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Okay. Good stuff. How do you feel?
I felt like it went well. What did you think?
Oh my god, you're so fun. I'm just like, "Yes, yes, yeah." I had to stop myself from being like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," everything you were saying. So I really definitely feel like the kindred spirit. I know when we first met for 15 minutes, whatever, I
Yeah.
felt that as well. But I definitely feel like we have an alignment on, like, the game that we're playing. Like, it is about, and you were using a human operating system. Did you get that from me, or do you use that?
Yes, from you.
Okay. Oh my god. Oh, I was like, "Yes." I mean, I want people like because it makes so much sense
It
right now.
made
Like,
so much sense.
let's look at that operating system. So I was super glad to hear you say that. But yeah, no, I felt like it was really good. And I feel like you're on such a fun path. And I'm really excited for your book as well. That seems like such a
Thank
big
you.
adventure. So good for
I'm
you.
I'm done with the first draft, and when I get back from Antarctica, I'm going through like a final pass with my editor, and then I'm going to self-publish. I think because I feel like everyone's writing a book, and
Yeah.
I've looked at
That's
that.
okay. All the
Yes,
books are good
yes,
because we need this practice back for creativity. So, I
yeah,
was totally just gonna commend you for that because it's like this that's what we need more people doing is, "I've got an idea, I'm gonna put a spark of creativity out there and see if anyone catches it."
yeah. Yeah. And even if, one person enjoys it and learns something, ultimately I'm hoping someday when I retire to lead some expeditions with people who are interested like in leadership, and then being able to use that as a platform to actually go together to Borneo, but also do some leadership development work as a workshop and talk about like, why this matters, what you're doing with it. So um, that's the long-term dream.
Okay, so my long-term dream is very similar to that. I just wanna have really freaking exciting executive retreats where,
Yes.
my whole thing is my whole thing is brain-based, so it's all about, like, how do you actually take big concepts and I use brain-based mechanisms with our relevance model to actually have leaders really quickly identify what's your context, what's your personal relevance or purpose, what is, like what are your limiting beliefs and then how
Hmm.
do you actually start moving above it?
Yeah.
So my ask for you would
Hmm.
be one, I wonder if there's a way we can play together
Me too.
with my your clients and how
Yeah.
we might build something complementary or something I can help you with or long term though, I just want to put it out there because one thing I've learned is like you got to put it out there. But my ultimate goal with deephumanx is that we do. And by the way, I'm a traveler. I do one international trip a year.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite as hardcore as you, but I am absolutely all around. Like, how do we pick? Maybe diving with whales near Fiji,
Right.
or
Right.
like that's like where I have the deep passion is like we
Yeah.
are the first generation who can get anywhere in the world in 24 hours.
I
Like it's
know.
insane, right? Like or at least access to it, right? Like
Yes.
all I want to do is be like where can we play? And like you said with nature with my relevance model and your connection with nature like there's a lot of much more macro learning that goes on. So
Yeah.
how do we take that and bring those lessons into business?
Ooh, I would love to stay in touch, and I could see a really cool partnership there on those experiences. Do you I assume you've, like, read, Jim Lair's material? Oh,
No.
LOEHR, I think. Powerful Engagement is his material. I love it. Dell used to use that 100 years ago for high potential, like the super senior executives. And then very few of us got to sit in on that. But I think you would really like his material. It is about energy, and I think that was the right way to frame it at the time. That's his he was older even then. um but I think like framing it now in a like brain psychology neurology kind of way would be like
Yeah.
a next level of framing and thinking about it. But he would talk about like where is your personal energy, where's your work energy, how do you restore your energy, like both from a spiritual, physical, work kind of way. And I think
Mm,
that links nicely with like what I'm starting to envision for workshops as we go and like swim with the leopard seals. When I hang up with you, I'm going to be talking with people about the leopard seal design patch. It's kind of like giving away a free t-shirt.
no effing way.
Yeah, like teeth, are they too long? I have 4 women who are like offended because the teeth are too long. So, so
Oh, Jesus. Okay, okay.
yeah.
I thought you meant like literally swimming with them.
Oh, we will. In
We can talk
Antarctica.
about that
Yes, right now I'm just talking about the design on the patch,
on
but
the patch.
yes, we'll be swimming with them every day and helping identify leopard seals by their scars and their fur markings. So I'm super excited about that. That's the main reason I'll be in the water every day
Okay.
in Antarctica. But yes, let's stay in touch and
And
talk about.
maybe we write a LinkedIn post together or something because I'm very big on energy, like I do not know how, but I nerd out and I always have since my younger days, since probably college about thinking
Yeah,
and the exchange of energy. And that's like so much of what we do is how do you start to see what energy you're bringing
Yeah.
We do it through the practical stuff of work, but it's how do you see what energy through your operating patterns you're bringing to any environment? Because once you see that, you might understand better why others' defenses go up, or some teams work together, or there's just
Right.
like other teams are working really hard, but nothing's getting done. And so I have a really big passion for energy without
Yeah.
sounding woo woo. So maybe you and I can do a LinkedIn post or a LinkedIn paper on it.
I would love that. I think that the Antarctic expedition has real potential for like me to comment on that because there are 25 women. They're from 8 countries. They're from their mid 20s to their early 80s. And so talking about like the dynamic and the different energies and expectations people are bringing and giving are like super interesting to me, and the cultural dynamics are fascinating.
Yeah.
So there could be something really interesting there.
Ew, I love that. That's funny. I went on an African safari and I was like the same way. I was like, how do I write all of this learning in on the energy exchange? Like there, I would
Yeah,
love that. Okay. We're gonna play together then. Who knows why? I'm not a big person. I'm giving up the like, you have to have a plan, the calendar, whatever. But let's
yeah,
figure out how do we continue the spark that we have
yeah.
and we do something for the betterment of the world.
I love that. I'm leaving February 7th and I'm back March 12th. So it's a like meaty
You are
expedition.
serious. Oh my
Um,
God. But
but
you're
I really,
opening me up to a whole new world. I didn't even realize that there are like women's exploration groups that do this.
if I had known, I would have gotten you like and made you apply and recommended you.
Wow.
Um,
Oh my God.
yeah, because
Next time.
I think there are other opportunities. I got in to help with leadership development and to help with the arts.
Mhm.
And so like I think people would eat up your ability to like help develop leaders and I think you would love it.
I mean, you could go so many ways with it, like biohacking, the HUOA, your human operating system. Like there's
Yeah.
just a lot of ways you could go, but the ultimate is right. How do we better humanity?
Today was so much fun and I'm glad we've agreed to keep it going.
Okay. All right. I will talk to you.
All right. See ya.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.